County, city, state.
Yes, I think so.
If I take like. Oh, I can see that.
It's just scary.
One minute. We can all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Providing today's students opportunities to become tomorrow's leaders. Barry?
Sorry, I gotta find my spot. So, the purpose of tonight's meeting is a public work session. I want to be clear that no decisions will be made tonight. It is a public work session. One of the things that we heard was that people didn't get a chance to have a say, and we want to make sure we do that. So there's no decisions tonight. What you should expect tonight is listening from the board members and from the administrators. Not a lot of talking. They may ask clarifying questions, but they actually will not be answering a bunch of questions tonight. The idea is for us is to gather information and figure out what it is that you folks want us to hear. We think that's important, and we want to make sure we're doing that. We will spend a little time going through some information on the front end, and then we will move to the public comment section. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Baumgartner.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? You good? Okay. My name is Kim Baumgartner, Central Noble's business manager, and I am here to give you some quick background information before we start. This is the slide I wanted to start with because I do want you all to keep this in the forefront of your mind tonight. The reason that we're here, it's our why, the students of Central Noble. Okay, very quickly, how do public schools get funding? Indiana Public Schools use fund accounting, which means there are buckets for different types of money. As you can see in the slideshow, the education fund is our largest bucket. That is state funding based on our enrollment. Operations fund is funded by property taxes and local taxes. The debt service fund is also funded by property taxes to pay for bond debt. And then schools can have referendums, but Central Noble does not have a referendum. Buckets of money have to stay separate, though the state allows a 15% transfer from the education budget to the operations budget annually. Central Noble tries to keep their ed to ops transfer at 7%. Okay.
Jerry, can we steal your mic or something? Nope, they're not, none of them, they're all red. Can you guys hear it okay? Okay.
So why are we in this situation? Let's talk about enrollment decline. This impacts our state funding. Okay. From the 05-06 to 25-26 school years, Central Noble has lost 340 students. Using today's per pupil funding amount, this would equate to a loss of about $2.5 million in funding to Central Noble's education fund. And though we've lost that many students, that doesn't necessarily equate to the same amount of a loss of teachers or great savings in staffing. And even though we have less students over the last 20 years, the demand on public education has certainly not decreased. Let's talk about Senate Bill 1. You've heard us talk about it before, and this won't be the last time you hear us talk about it. Senate Bill 1 is estimated to save Indiana homeowners $1.3 billion over 3 years. While designed to help Indiana residents, this bill reduces the funding for public entities such as local governments, public schools, libraries, etc. So what is Central Noble's impact? In 2026, we lost 266,000. 2027, we're estimated to lose 270,000. 2028, another 330,000. And by 2029, we are set to lose approximately $200,000 in local income tax funding. This is a total potential financial impact of over $1 million. So to put this in perspective, Central Noble's 2026 operations budget is $3.9 million. If Central Noble is looking at a reduction of over $1 million, that is over 25% of our operations budget loss. If you think about that in terms of your own household, a 25% reduction of revenue to your house would likely prompt you to make some major changes to your spending. This is exactly what Central Noble is doing. Just so you know, the budget process for a school starts 18 months in advance, so we are well underway planning for our 2027 budget. Let's talk about some scenarios. Tonight, we're going to talk about consolidation. So scenario A is consolidation of the primary and the elementary starting this fall for the 26-27 school year. What we wanted to show you with this information is we kind of gave you utilities expenses for the primary and the elementary for the calendar year 2025. We have to remember that for half of 2025, the primary did lose a third of their students. But you can see that their utilities were still over 100,000, whereas the elementary is by far our most economical building. They were just right about 93,000 for their utilities. Central Noble Elementary is also getting a solar project to be completed by June 2026. This project is estimated to cover Central Noble Elementary's current AEP expenses. That could obviously change if we do add students and staff to that building, but we do anticipate seeing a reduction of utilities to the elementary due to this project. It is hard to estimate exactly how much we could save by closing the primary, but even with keeping the building at a stable temperature, we know we can capture utility savings along with transportation expenses and a much better utilization of all resources on one campus. Consolidation scenario B. This proposal would be to consolidate the primary and elementary starting the fall of 2027 for the school year, the 27-28 school year. We have some expenses to consider if we keep the primary open for another year. We need to replace the repeater that keeps our radios functioning between the locations. That is an estimated cost of $60,000. We need to replace some necessary switches and access points for our IT network. We have quotes on that. It's about $45,000. The geothermal is coming to the end of its useful life in that building. Replacement would be over $1 million there. Continued shuttle expenses from the Albion to primary campus. And this option, it does give the district full time to fully plan and execute the consolidation, but it will cost us more money in the long run. And then consolidation scenario C. Central Noble does not consolidate the elementary schools. In this scenario, other significant cuts would have to be made, and that would include cuts to the upkeep of our buildings and grounds. Payroll cuts would be inevitable. This would affect students, staff, and families. If Central Noble makes no changes at all, by 2028, the education and operations funds will both be in deficit spending, and the DLGF would not approve our budget. What does that mean? If the DLGF does not approve our 2028 budget, they would force us to make drastic cuts for our expenditures to be able to fit within our budget, or if we couldn't manage it on our own, the state could come in and take control, and then all decisions are out of our hands. When I spoke with our DLGF representative to go over different scenarios for CN, we discussed depleting all of our cash balances to help fund our budgets for the next 2 years. While she said that it is within CN's right to do that, she also advised that it would not be a financially wise decision for us to do that at this time. Referendum, this is our kind of second main topic for tonight. Scenario A, a November 2026 ballot. Central Noble Community School Corporation could be on the November 2026 ballot for a referendum if we provide notice to the state by August 1st with a list of 5% of Albion's registered voters who would support a referendum. Pros to going this fall are that 50 to 60 other public schools will be going for a referendum this fall using similar messaging to stress the importance of this funding for public education to overcome the impacts of Senate Bill 1. Since Central Noble just went through the referendum process, some resources could be updated and utilized again this fall. Some cons to going this fall. Central Noble just lost a referendum vote in May 2025. The cost of trying for a referendum is at least $40,000, whether a school wins or loses. And if Central Noble wants to do a referendum again this fall, we would be under a very tight timeline to accomplish everything that needs to be done. Referendum scenario B, wait until the November 2028 ballot. The next time beyond this fall that Central Noble could be on the ballot for a referendum would be November 2028. Pros to waiting is that Central Noble will most likely have needed to make several big changes due to the financial impacts of Senate Bill 1, which is something we heard a lot in the first referendum. The community wanted to see Central Noble make some of these big changes. If we wait, another legislative budget will happen in 2027, and that could change funding at the state level, but it's a gamble, who knows? Cons, by waiting until 2028, Central Noble's financial situation could be quite tight, and with potential big changes in CN's future, by 2028, staff, students, and families could really be feeling the effects of these changes made. Referendum scenario C, no referendum. Central Noble does not pursue a referendum in either 26 or 28. Central Noble would need to hope for increased enrollment to combat financial deficits or changes to funding at the state level. If neither of these situations happen, Central Noble will be forced to make significant cuts to remain open within the current budget constraints. And that's it for me.
So the rationale behind that is to give you folks out there some common talking points about why we're talking about the things we are. We are about to go into a breakout session. So what's going to happen is a board member or an administrator is going to join your table. The facilitators at each table, you raise your hand. So at each table, there's a facilitator and a note taker. And the facilitators are going to try to keep us on task and on time. You're going to have about 6 questions to process through and discuss. And I want to reiterate again, you can talk to the board members. They are going to listen. They may ask you clarifying questions. If you ask them questions, if it's something simple like, you know, what do you think? They're probably going to just not answer. They're going to just say, hey, we're here to gather. I don't want to do that. Remember, they're a board. One person's opinion doesn't carry much weight. Okay, they have to function as a board. So they're going to gather information. Now, the other thing that's going to happen is they're going to think and listen for themes that people are talking about. And our note takers, raise your hand. So if you're a note taker at each table, you're going to listen for themes, and those themes are going to be recorded, all right? And the board members and the administrators are going to listen for themes that are recorded. At the end of the meeting, when we're done with our 30 minutes, we have about 30 minutes to talk through these 6 questions. At the end of that time, we will then come back up here. We'll reconvene as a big group. We'll report out some things maybe that we heard, but the main themes to be reported will be reported and reported out tomorrow online. Okay, you may get some of the same information today as you get tomorrow, but our idea today is to hear your questions and try to answer them and to get things, your feelings about what we should be doing. I do want to be clear on one thing. Note takers are not writing down who said what. They are not writing down who said what. They're simply writing the themes and trying to get the big ideas of what it's talking about. So note takers, you don't need to know who said it. You just need to know what they said. All right? Are we clear on the expectations? Stay on time. We're going to have about 30 minutes. We'll have about 30 minutes. Carol will give us a 20-minute warning. When there's 20 minutes left, a 10-minute warning, and then probably a 5-minute warning. Okay? Yes.
I'm Matt with the newspaper. I may be coming around the tables. I also will not be taking down names. I am curious to what people are saying. I may write down what is said, but I'm not going to point anybody out or take your name or anything. So, thank you.
Okay. So board members, if you go to your table and Carol, wait till they get there and get settled in, and then we'll start. Facilitators, I will give you kind of a, hey, let's go. Make sure you sign in. Even if you don't speak, make sure you sign in. Oh, yeah. I apologize. I forgot one more thing. On the back of your agenda are the talking points that Kim talked about in bullet form. And the other sheet of paper is are the 6 questions. Okay? Okay, go ahead. Time has started.
Thanks everybody for coming. My name is Here I have to read and get started, okay? This portion of the meeting serves as a public comment opportunity, so we ask that everyone would be respectful, stay on topic, and speak. So always be heard. We'll be asking 6 questions across 2 topics, and we'll be recording your comments and may ask a clarifying question as needed. We will spend approximately 5 minutes on each of the questions for a total of 30 minutes. I'd also like to introduce Brian Geiger from the board. You'll be interacting with us. He's here to listen, gather feedback, but will not be responding directly to questions during the session. You may ask clarification on the comment. So with all that, let's go ahead and get started with our first question. The first topic is the consolidation of school buildings. Question number 1, in what ways could combining resources improve opportunities for students? Does anyone have any comments they'd like to have on that subject? Example they gave for this would be, would there be improvements in academics, extracurricular support services? Do you see anything in those areas? Positives to combining buildings or negatives?
Classes are going to be different. So question 2, on challenges should we anticipate Right now, I didn't start much too early and certainly everyone had it. So I never watched my life. It was I mean, we do. So, I mean, here, okay, so what happens
They actually with the mostly older
You know, 5 minutes. Anybody have a final comment on this question from all?
What challenge? One of the benefits of the they have that.
Some of the comments are next, so I'll just read that next question so we can easy it. I don't think anybody else today. Sorry. What challenges should we anticipate in consolidation? I think that kind of ties right into the one, so I just keep going.
Last year, I was given 2 days back on my bike. And then I spent
You're gonna have to.
But still, I was stuck at school getting those extra organized and getting rid of things because they said I had to do those stuff. Yeah. But anyway,
I think that, I think everything
I was in that last time, once I graduated. We're out of the district, and I didn't have much next year. But, decided which district was I decided to see classes. So it was 18 versus like 27, 28, the other guys. And this was my deciding factor. So we're gonna bring it in. I don't see this as how I thought we had a third year, you're gonna have a challenge.
okay, so you mentioned
Yeah.
I know but I mean, our question is like, I don't know share.
I don't have anything about it. There is, and I already talked about the last size. So like, it's such a size smaller, but.
Which I know is a real.
But so it's very.
You look like you had something you wanted to add.
Yeah. Let's follow up, let's keep it going.
20 minutes. 20 minutes.
Just down to the third question, yeah, so how can we best utilize the time and resources to prepare for a successful transition?
Yes.
Staffing, I moved from the primary building to the elementary.
I know that you brought that up.
Yeah, I did.
Maybe just having a schedule
Summer school is an issue.
Yeah, summer school is issue.
Because the vice president so that
No, that was the other thing. We need more. We need a great document. We need more help. A lot. Yeah. So we had all the custodians, we had teachers.
And if you're gonna think that, it's anyway, or time. Yeah.
And if it happens, we're saying, okay, this is a month, you know, do this. We've done that in the past. Combine this,
That decision, I'm not just.
I don't know.
Teachers find.
Okay.
Well, maybe outside.
I don't think probably.
Maybe like those like, say, hey, go check out those.
You know, when you're, when I was in fifth grade, but now sixth grade, it's a big deal.
I think it's gonna went back towards.
Make it. Talk about it.
That way, they can listen.
We're going to move on to the referendum side now. And our first question there is, what information does the community need to make an informed decision? How can the district clearly communicate the purpose and impact of the use of referendum funds? Maybe start off with that one.
Because we had to pull it over and tell us about it, like, I'm like, how about
Bigger neighborhoods have.
Because I know with the rest of them, and I know we're doing time and time again, so how do we get that purpose to the community? Clearly understand the reason behind it.
There's that, people also, there's.
I mean,
It's not just, it's not gonna be cheap, it's like. I don't think they are just thinking, yeah.
I don't know, I'm not just saying. The public can come together, they can, the work is shared.
And it's an opportunity.
Not just that, it's Look back at what we were all talking about, where, you know. So, but.
They got creative.
Figure out what they're gonna have to pay. The numbers.
We probably already have representatives. You're at. About a minute left on this
I feel like when we're doing stuff like this.
Okay, question number 2. What specific academic needs should you prioritize if a referendum is decided? Examples: teacher quality, class sizes, instructional support.
Maybe make it public, like, hey, like, this is yes, but I want you to understand. harsh reality. This is, you say no, this is what something is, this is what, yeah.
So they don't. Like not all, or like not all, but there's a lot
You know, if I wasn't on the school board, I don't think I believe that, yes. He's sooner than you.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm not asking how much, like, you got a lot of acres, how much you culture? Yeah. Versus somebody has to do. Well, yeah, but how many families have one have 20, 30 acres?
And you can't, right? Isn't there a law that if it's not Jesus?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what the term is. It's empty, like a church in the Bible and all their churches. And we're going to I mean, I don't know if there's like any issues with that. I'm sure it's there. Yeah, I don't. I think you know.
Probably never problem. It's over 9/11, it's one of our last questions. I know it's fine together. We talked about this right now with the community before, I know the referendum.
And I'll tell you, what we call that, we just.
The ones that gave.
Way better.
There should be something.
I'm not saying I'm going to go off
So that was.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, there may be no choice.
Yep. Causes right? They see another opening, whether it's at any level, right? Or you think
Totally different, but it'd be right to say Mary. So you see that, you're like.
I know there was quite a few.
Thank you,
Try to get to a good place to stop. Try to get to a good place to stop. Board members, as you can, make your way back up here, please. So the first thing I want to say is, I want to give a huge shout out to those of you that came out. I recognize this is not the most comfortable conversation for anybody. And I recognize that probably most of these decisions are not ones that anybody wants to make. But I appreciate your time and your energy to come out and at least share with us what you're thinking. Second thing, I forgot to do this on the front, and I want to thank our custodial staff for setting this up. They did a ton of work, and I want to make sure that they get noted for that. Last thing, I heard lots, I know Brad was walking around, I didn't see other administrators, but if the conversation was half as good at your tables as it was at mine, we will have come back with some information. Just some heads up, so we'll gather this information, we'll get it out tomorrow, it'll be on the webpage somewhere. It'll be up within 24 hours, so you can look at that. And I hope we got some questions for us to answer too. I know at our table, we came up with at least two that we need to get some feedback on and get back out to you folks. The last thing I want to do before we go is I'd like to just ask the board members to give a couple quick sentences on major themes that they heard at their table, or anything that they would like to share that kind of jumped out at them. Remember, this is one person's screening of this. It's not meant to be full force. I know that I wrote down some notes, but it's not meant, what I wrote isn't meant to be the notes for the evening. So I don't know who wants to start.
I'll start.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, perfect. I think a big theme at our table was, and my table can obviously correct me if I'm wrong with this, but I think a lot of it was coming up with the consolidation of schools. They were really worried about teachers. Are teachers going to be able to keep their jobs? Are the aides going to be able to keep their jobs? And then the class sizes was the other thing that was really brought up that we kind of stuck on for a while over there.
Okay. Anybody else?
I'll go ahead. I did.
Thank you.
Class size was another topic, with small community feel. And if we do have to do it, theme was the sooner the better if we're gonna do it. And as far as referendum, I don't know if you can hear me. My voice is loud anyway, so. basically, thought it was way too soon. It's a hot button in the community right now. And same as Tyler, class size was a big topic.
Well, it sounds like we're all on the same page here. So space and class sizes, just make a decision was, just make a decision. We keep talking about it. Someone had a really good point, the demographics, there's a school track, the deaths, the births, the ages of the voters, the first time through the referendum, is there a target class we could focus on? And then if we were to consider the referendum, highlight our own success stories a little better.
Yeah, nothing that they haven't already said. Class sizes, if we do this, who's gonna help move? Sooner the better. Lots of if, how, and when kind of questions, like, do we need to do this? If we don't do this, what happens? What's the time frame if we have to make these decisions? As far as the referendum goes, lots of good information, just like educating the community about our funding systems, how they work, where the money comes from, why we spend what we spend, and why we have to make some of the moves we made. There's still some confusion as to how all of those things work, and I want to make sure that people understand what that is. But overwhelmingly, it sounds like the referendum is going to be a struggle in the community. That's a common theme at my table, at least this soon, especially with this much change that could possibly happen.
So at my table, I would say a lot of the same conversations. The one thing that I made a note of, and I wrote it really big notes, was better and clearer communication that is more transparent. I didn't get the sense that anybody was accusatory, but just that there were things that happened quicker than what they wanted, and without feeling much input. And I would tell you, there were several questions that came up, and I thought, yeah, we should be able to answer them. And so I think those are good questions. I think, remember, tomorrow there'll be information out. We'll get those out to you. You can always reach out to any of the board members. You can send them emails. You can reach out to us. You can reach out to me, and I'll try to get the information you request. We'll go from there. The next board meeting is scheduled for April 20th. I think the board, it's up to you folks if you want to meet sooner than that. There's really nothing to do. This is clearly a work session, so really the only decision you have is if we want to have additional meetings. But I don't know that's obviously a board decision, not a me decision. So I'll leave that up to you folks.
Anything else? Meeting is adjourned. Very glad. Okay.
Thank you again so much for coming out. Make sure you sign in. Have a wonderful evening.
You were a great timer. Hi, I was going to say hi to I reached out to her and I said, she's getting
Well, I did have a library. Anyway, just over my house.
Have additional costs that they don't have. Yeah. Yeah. It just.
All those problems have been ran by us.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, when it came first, she's like. Yeah, that was another. You consider apartments. Something. I can see. It's just my case. Well, I know, it's in the work. Yeah.
Yeah, to make that decision. Gary's a pretty smart guy. Maybe he wants to wait to see how the person says They are for their seats.
Sorry, going around?